the security sector, you have come under scrutiny with a lot of allegations from members of the public that, yourselves, you are the people protecting the manufacturers, producers, distributors, and peddlers of this harmful drug, Kush. You've come to face these allegations because though you encourage community policing, there are communities and instances when they would tell you they have been bold enough to report some members of their community on Kush allegation. What happens then is the police comes in some of those instances, they take those people, go with them. Less than 72 hours later, these people are back in the communities. The sad bit is, so many of them brag a lot. They come back to the communities bragging about, there was a video, the other person was singing, Namonide, stop nonsense. They go with the police, they come back a few hours later, back into the community, putting those who were bold enough to report to the security sector in danger in the first place. We've also seen this, the security sector cherry picking on how certain cases would be handled. Admaya Bio's situation was handled differently from Natasha Beckley's situation, but it's all in the same fight against Kush. You, security sector, have now come under scrutiny. There are allegations that you are the same people enabling, protecting, and covering up for those who are producing, manufacturing, distributing, and peddling Kush in the communities because some of you get kickbacks.
Well, it is one thing to make allegation. It is an order altogether to prove those allegations. I mean, isolated incidents should not be generalized as being the practice or the accepted norm. If we were complicit, we could not have busted a whole ring of a Kush producing factory in Waterloo, a whole ring of Kush producing factory in Allentown, a whole ring of Kush producing factory at Taylor Street now, Taylor Street. I will not want to comment on individual specific cases because it might prejudice the investigations. But I only want to state that we are genuine in the fight. The security sector leadership takes very great exception at any practice that will see the protection of people that are engaged in these kinds of activities. If you go to the court across the country, there are people that are undergoing trials, facing charges that we have supported the judiciary to prosecute them. If we are complicit, then nobody will be behind bars, nobody will be in the courts, nobody will be in the police custody. If you go to Toku now, they have vehicles that have been seized on account of people's involvement in the trafficking of drugs. If you go to the Queen Elizabeth II Key, we have a whole C-Corp framework, the Sea Cooperation Project. That one is supported by the government of Sierra Leone and the European Union to ensure that we fight organized criminality at sea. And over time, since its establishment, I think sometimes in 2015, 14, thereabout, we have made a lot of inroads, arresting people, sometimes few of our brothers who live abroad, who actually will give the impression that what is happening in Sierra Leone is something that is condoned, being the ones that are loading these illicit substances into illicit cargo, disguising them as things that are accepted in the country. But over the period, we've been able to expose them, to bring them to book, to expose these kinds of behaviors. So I assure you that it is not condoned. It's not a system of being complicit in these kinds of things. We are concerned because apart from the fact that we are security practitioners, we are also parents. If we condone these kinds of bad practice, karma will catch up with us. Our children are there, we are here, and they are also in the communities. So honestly, our authorities spend sleepless nights. They put their heads together. But I tell you, whilst it's not like giving a tap on people that are engaged in the sale or cultivation or even the use of drugs. But the fact is, it's a lucrative business. They will do everything within their powers to stay afloat. So whatever you do, and this is the case for all other countries across the world. And for a country like ours, which has very limited resources, to have been making those inroads that we make, it only means that it is commitment that is beyond reproach. So I assure the public that information of that nature where people are arrested actually considered to be ones that are engaged in criminality and handed over to some officer, and they are seen resurfacing in community, let them bring it to the attention of other institutions. That is why whenever I come on air, we announce toll-free lines. It is for these kinds of activities, so that people could re-report those things that they might have reported to somebody who has played with the evidence, as the case may be. But these isolated incidents should not be used to mean that we are complicit in this. Otherwise, we could not have established a TOCO framework, which is constituted by well-meaning people, well-meaning institutions. And over the period, hundreds of arrests. In this year alone, we've done destruction twice. Destruction of drugs that are worth millions of dollars. If we are complicit, we will not do these kinds of destruction. And these destructions are done in public view, in the presence of journalists, in the presence of members of community, in the presence of stakeholders. We will only continue to appeal that the requisite information be given to us timely, because sometimes, even though the information will be given, but it will so be still that by the time you go to take action, there are going to be problems. Because we believe that these things that are happening in society, in communities. And it is people that are harboring them, that are keeping them, that are creating the problem. So that's what I want to say.
Abdul, would you vouch for all members of the security sector that they are, as passionately as you've put it, willing and concerned about the effects of these drugs, that one way or the other, if you've not been affected, somebody could be affected in your family? Would you vouch for the willingness of all members of the security sector, that they have the same commitment, they're equally willing, and are joining actively in the fight against Kush, rather than being enablers and protectors of those manufacturing, distributing, and selling Kush?
So one thing the sector has prioritized is joint training, collaboration, and functioning on the same page. I'm not saying
what the sector has done. I'm
yes,
asking would you vouch for all members of the sector?
I will come to that. Recently, we developed a standard operating procedure on how to handle issues of this nature. So whilst we provide the trainings, whilst we do all of the neat work to ensure that we all function on the same page, the fact remains we are all from different backgrounds. So if you vouch for Mr. A, who is not yourself, then you might be taking the wrong approach. So I
asked you that question intentionally. So you cannot vouch for all members of the sector. You cannot vouch
for anybody.
Because all over the world, we've seen, even out of Sierra Leone, places where they've actually taken these things seriously. As you said, it's a lucrative business. Those who are into it go to all extent to protect what they do. Yeah. And going to all extent includes even having some members of the security sector on their side who help to protect them. And we've seen this all over the world. Being that this is not new information, and with all the allegations coming to light in Sierra Leone, what is the security sector doing to fish out some of its very own who are the rotten fishes and bad eggs amongst you?
Yes, maybe it has not been a kind of a high-profiled kind of activity. But over time, I tell you, there have been situations when law officers have been brought to book on account of their involvement, either in the consumption or protecting people that are engaged in any kind of organized criminality. I mean, I have stated, and I want to reiterate, that I will relish any opportunity to have that kind of information that will be very cogent enough to pinpoint that Mr. Will that speaks so much about drug prevention is actually complicit in this one. That one could be brought to the attention of my authorities. How
famous do you make their notoriety? Like, how famous do you make their notoriety?
So,
because we see Liberia, for example, they're constant. They're posting the pictures, names, identities of these people, and what they were arrested with and being investigated for. So I ask again, those you say now, even those within the security sector, who have either been arrested or are being tried, how famous do you make their notoriety?
So we must concede, especially so when it has to do with our relationships with our sister countries, that it is not true that it is they that have only been doing arrest of people that are of Sierra Leone extraction with drugs. The fact is we also have been arresting people of Guinean extraction or Liberian extraction on our own side. But what we have not done is not to go and do social media publications.
Why not?
Because we know that diplomatically it is wrong. There is an arrangement between countries for mutual legal assistance.
No,
and
sorry,
to do
Abdul,
so will not mean coming to seek sympathy through the public. But we have promised.
That's not what I was asking you about other nationals.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, we started off on you saying some of those people within law enforcement have also been arrested and are facing the full force of the law for their involvement. That's the premise you made that I'm now asking you. How famous do you make their notoriety?
So
because as you put it now, that there are people who have been arrested, I would tell you that a large number of the public isn't even aware that some of these people who are within law enforcement are also being investigated or have been found guilty of their involvement in Kush.
So if we
how famous do you
if we have identified that as a gap, they will make it, will take it into good faith to ensure that in future we also publicize the involvement of not only people that are in law enforcement, but every other person, including foreign nationals. I stated that we are particularly concerned over the fact that our counterparts, even though we have very good bilateral relationships, whenever they make arrests, they are quick to go on air and begin to make pronouncements. Most times it has proven that in fact those people that they claim to have been Sierra Leoneans are not Sierra Leoneans at all. They are nationals. I have a list of statistics here.
Are you keeping a secret, those law enforcement officers who have been investigated or have been tried for their involvement in Kush?
No, no. We will willingly want to expose any of our kind that is involved in anything that will bring the reputation of our institutions at stake. We will expose that. The Sierra Leone Police, the Office of National Security, all other agencies are very much committed to doing these kinds of things because it is about the integrity of these institutions. These institutions have been established way before our existence. We cannot allow one or few people to mess them up. That's the reason we are saying that if we are making these kinds of claims, they have to be substantiated with the relevant data so that when we take action, we're actually taking a precise action that will not only put somebody's job or reputation into jeopardy, because it is one thing to prosecute or to make allegations, but it is also very much important to prove beyond reasonable doubt that those allegations that you make against Mr. A or B or Z are ones that could stand the test of time for the rest of the person's life. Because whilst we want to fight crime, we'll also not want to be complicit in committing crimes in the guise of fighting crime. Because sometimes we have witnessed situations when perpetrators will actually want to taint the image of people that go after them. So all of these are critical issues that we are aware of. And so if you give us information in relation to the involvement of Mr. A into this, we'll have to thoroughly investigate so that we establish the truth beyond reasonable doubt.
How can the public help in the midst of distrust in members of the security sector? So, how can the public help? So
the public could give us information anonymously and then follow up on those information that they might have supplied. So we have the 119 toll-free line, which is the National Situation Room, which is up and running on a 24/7 basis. If you have concerns of this nature as a citizen, call. We are not interested in your identity. We are not interested in even your location. Just give us the relevant facts. And I'm saying those facts should be given on a timely basis so that we take the requisite action. So that once you give information about the involvement of anybody into criminality, we're able to go there on time and unearth actually what they are doing. If the information comes in late, We might go there and will not find anything. And sometimes it becomes frustrating, especially so when it involves the use of resources, when people will actually be thinking that those kinds of calls are hoax calls. If you call and we actually go to pinpoint that what you've called us for is something that will proven to be true, they will be interested in going to other places. But I tell you, even when we make these lines available, well, we know that the perpetrators also want to use these opportunities to hoodwink the security sector by diverting their attention onto some other places. But I know that there are serious citizens that are ready to help in the fight. Don't say it is not my business. The IGP always says in all gatherings that we should function on the principle of see something and say something. Because those things that you see and you fail to talk about, because they are not affecting you at the moment, could come to become your greatest nemesis in life.
And why should they get confidence when you are now suspects in the eyes of the public? I say you, the security sector. You are now suspects in the eyes of the public to say, these are actually the enablers.
Well, I really think we are suspect to a few people. But a majority of the population still believes that we are genuine in the fight. Most of the arrests, most of the inroads that we've made are on account of tip-offs that we've received from members of the community. If they had actually suspected beyond all consideration that we are part of the cartel, they will not give us those kinds of information. And besides, if we have arrested people, hundreds of them are facing court trials, they are going to court, and they have not for once stated that NDLA is actually aiding and abetting activities. Most times people just make statements. They have no evidence to substantiate those kinds of statements. I recall sometimes back, a whole public official was saying, in fact, this agency is the one that is aiding and abetting because he was not getting his way as to how he wanted. So sometimes we should be very much careful in analyzing these kinds of information that are at our disposal, because people who are actually engaged in these kinds of bad behaviors will use these lacunas to actually sway our attention from the reality.